Good morning, guys. What's growing? It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Today we're going to be starting the first in a series of pruning videos. It's going to be blueberries today, and then we'll have a couple other videos coming up: blackberries, roses, fruit trees, and shrubs in general. So the first thing I want to do is thank you all so much. We are at 500 subscribers, you guys. This is amazing. Last year at this time, I had around 212 subscribers. Today we're at 500, and I am surprised. I'm shocked. I didn't think anybody really would want to hear what I was doing here. I was doing it to document it because it felt good, and it's helpful for me too, because I can go back and look at this stuff. It's almost like a video journal, but I'm so happy and so thankful that you guys have subscribed. I hope you're getting stuff out of this content, and I'll continue to produce. Hopefully we'll continue to grow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. On to blueberries. So it is late January. It was January 23rd, and I'm in zone 9B here. So I generally start all of my berry pruning around now because the plants are still in their dormancy. So basically, it depends on your zone, but you want to be pruning your berries, your roses, a lot of your shrubs and stuff during their dormant period. And that is in the winter time, but not in the early winter, because they can then become, those cuts can then become damaged by frost and snow and stuff like that. So late winter for wherever you are, and if you feel like it's too late, depending on your zone, that's okay. Try to get them before the leaves start on them, but you know, you can also wait until midsummer to do a pruning, but that's a different kind of pruning, and we'll talk about that actually in the midsummer. So we are doing a cleanup of the berries today. We'll be starting by taking off anything that's dead or starting to die, anything that looks diseased. We'll be removing that. We'll be taking off crossing branches, anything that's rubbing together. And then we'll also be taking out, depending on the age of the plant, some of the old canes. So the two plants that I'm going to do first, these guys are about 4 years old. I have some other plants that are only a year old that will get no pruning this year because they're very tiny. In fact, let's go look at those real quick. These are pink lemonade. They are brand new this year. Just put them in, and they don't need any pruning. They're brand new, and I will show you right here. That is a fruiting bud right there. And where the leaves come out is these little nodes here. So these guys will probably give me a little bit of fruit this year, but that's not their focus. I'm going to allow them, by giving them some fertilizer and some additional compost, to create good root systems and start sending up more canes. Now this guy is a little bit older. This one's about 2 years old. So we will be getting it a gentle pruning. This one is a Darrow blueberry. It's a northern high bush variety. And so you'll want to check in your zone to see which varieties of blueberries, because there's a lot of them out there, are best for your zone, because that will really make a difference in terms of your yield and their survivability. So again, on all of these buds, you can see those are the flowering buds here on the ends, the terminal ends of the branches. These are the ones that will flower and give you lots of fruit. And then the leaves, there's a leaf bud right there. They come off of the side branches. So now is the ideal time to prune, because you can see where the flowering buds are, and make sure that you don't take off more than you need. And this one is just going to get a very light pruning because it is so young still. So you can tell the difference between old and young wood. It's a little bit harder with this particular variety, but this is newer wood than this is. This guy right here is more crusty brown. This one is more red. And this is still a very viable branch, because if you look, there are tons of fruiting ends on it. So that branch is definitely going to stay. But some more of these branches here might come off because they're not producing much and there's no fruiting buds on the end. We'll just take some of those off. We'll just do a little bit of the cleanup. Now the bigger ones are back here. These are two different varieties of blueberries. This one right here, I don't have the tag for it anymore. These are both northern high bush varieties. And then that one back there in that pot, it's got no leaves on it at all. This one always loses its leaves. This one tends to retain a few, but it's got its fall color on, see? So these will all, these leaves will come off and the new ones will pop out and give it bright green leaves. In fact, you can see right there, that is a leaf. So this one will fall off and the new bright green leaf will come out. So this one you can see has lots and lots of long branches that are kind of getting in the way of things. Like this one's going to hurt me to cut off because look at all of the fruiting buds on here. But it's very long. It comes out way far from the pot and it's actually growing into this plum tree. So I'm going to remove that branch. It's also an older branch, so not the end of the world. Now you can see here, this is red stem. This is a brand new branch, and this is much older wood here. So with your older ones, you're going to want to thin the old wood by 1/3 every year. So you'll choose your branch. So in this case, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches, old wood branches. I'm going to choose 2 to remove. Pruning by 1/3 every year will give you established branches that will produce lots of fruit for you and will stimulate the plant to send up brand new branches, new canes, that will then produce fruit in subsequent years. So the tools we're going to need for this project are pretty simple. A pair of pruning shears. These are very clean and they've been sterilized with alcohol. You always want to make sure that you clean your tools in between plants, even in the same species, because you don't want to pass on, let's say one of my blueberry bushes has a disease that I can't see yet. If I don't clean these tools in between, I'm basically just transferring that disease to the rest of my bushes. The other thing we're going to need is a pair of loppers. This is for the thicker wood, the bigger canes. And then I also have here a bag of compost and a can of fast release fertilizer. I'm sorry, slow release fertilizer. It's granular and it's water soluble. So what I'm going to do is after I do my pruning, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the fertilizer onto the top of the soil. I'm going to add a little layer of compost. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit of straw on top of that. And that will pretty much set up the plants for going into the spring, where they'll give us lots of new growth and hopefully lots of berries. Okay, so the first thing, like I said, I'm gonna do is look for anything, any wood that is dead or starting to look diseased. Some of them, this is just a little tiny one right here. All of these look really good. There's lots of fruiting buds on this branch. This is a brand new branch. And it's got leaf buds at the end. This one has fruiting buds. This is a new branch too. This is the one I'm going to take off. So I'm going to do that with my loppers. And this will also give us more room to walk around in here. Now, when you take off these lopping cuts, when you're removing a whole branch, you want to go right up next to the collar of the trunk and remove it that way. Go. All right, and then I'm going to take this and put that in the compost pile. Okay, now I have one more branch I should remove so I can stick to my rule of thirds, but I'm not sure which one it's going to be yet. So I'm going to keep looking and see if we have any dead and dying. So like this branch right here, not dead, not dying, but it has only leaves on it. I don't even see any fruiting buds. So I'm actually going to take this branch off at a 45-degree angle because this one is not coming off of the main stalk. Okay, so that one's off. All right, now this branch there's a little bit of dead there. This one's looking pretty good. Still trying to decide because this is sticking out into the path, but this one's really sticking out into the path. I think I'm gonna take this branch off because that will open the walkway, and that will be our 2 canes removed for the year. All right, that's better. Now we'll be able to get back and forth. And then everything else on here right now looks really good. Yeah, I don't see any place that I want to remove, and actually just a lot of healthy plant material. So that's really good news. Oh, there's a little bit of dying material here. So it's just, you know, a dead twig off the end. Just gonna pull that off. And then there's a little bit down here. This is what it looks like on the plant. 45-degree angle, and it's gone. Looking really good. That's positive. Okay, so let's move on to the next guy. Okay, so with this one, it's a different variety, and it grows slightly differently, not terribly so. All of my blueberries are in pots here because we have very alkaline soil. We are at a level 8 on the pH scale. Blueberries are acid-loving plants. They really want acidic soil. And I can't provide that consistently in the ground here for them, so I grow them in pots. Now, this one is in a pretty big pot, but you know, I think at the end of this fruiting season, I might upgrade it to an even bigger pot because these are very established plants now, and they probably need more room. So, looking at this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 old canes. I have some new canes here that are looking pretty good. And some, so here's part of the problem of growing against the fence. When we have deer right outside the fence, I can see where these have been nibbled off. In fact, I think even though those are new canes, I might cut those back because the way they're growing is they're trying to grow away, but if they grow outside the fence and they just get eaten by the deer. And if they grow inwards, then they're going to be crossing through the center of the plant, and you don't want that. So I think I'm actually, well, you know what? Actually, I changed my mind. If I'm going to repot this plant, I can reposition it, bring it a little bit further forward so that those canes are not right up against the fence where the deer can get at them. And that will actually help the plant because those are new canes. I don't really want to take off those canes if I don't have to. Now on these new canes, they all look really good. This plant is still very dormant. The fruit buds are much smaller. Also, this variety tends to produce smaller berries anyway, but definitely looks less far along than the other one. And right now I'm just removing some of the tiny bits of dead branches along here, very few. So 3 years ago, when I got these guys and put them in their pots, they were in a slightly shadier place, and we had, as usual, a very hot summer, and they got sunburned really badly. I mean, scorched the leaves, and it was in the height of summer. So I was worried that they weren't going to make it. But they did. They came back, and that following year, they produced more berries than they ever had before. So, you know, these guys can be pretty resilient. What I want to tell you is the way people prune berries and other things, you know, there's lots of quote unquote rules out there, but it's all still fairly subjective. So don't feel paralyzed. Don't scare yourself thinking you can't do it, because you can. Take a chance. Give it a try. Unless you're cutting them down to the ground, you're still going to get some production out of them. So, all right, trying to decide which canes to remove. So I have, what did I say, 6, 2, 4, 6. So just like the other one, I'm going to take a third of the old canes off. So that'll be 2 old canes. This cane right here doesn't actually have that many buds on it, and it's in the pathway, it's in the walkway. So I think this is a good candidate for removal. This one does have a lot of buds on it, even though it's sticking out into the walkway a bit. I think I'm going to save this one this year. And then this cane doesn't have a lot of buds. It is crossing in front of this one and rubbing on this newer cane. So this is my other candidate for coming out. So let me get the loppers and do that. All right, so this is a very open structure, lots of light and air being able to get in here. The next thing I'm gonna do, there's actually some weeds growing in here and the soil level's really low. Let me show you. Okay, the soil level on this one, as well as the other one, is low, so it's ready to have some compost added to it. But first, I'm gonna pull out all these weeds. This is just a native spurge that we have growing here, and the seeds just go far and wide. It's not terrible, it's pretty easy to eradicate. So I'm gonna pull out all of those weeds. I'm gonna put down my little bit of fertilizer, then some compost, and then some straw. And the same thing over here. So that's it. That's all it takes. A few pruning cuts, making sure the dead and diseased and damaged are gone, and pruning off for older plants. This is for anything that's like 3 years and older, blueberry plants. Pruning off 1/3 of the old canes, and then just tidying up, giving it some fertilizer, compost, and a little bit of layer of straw or whatever mulch you like to use. If you guys are growing in the ground, these steps still apply. You might be lucky if you're growing in the ground and have more canes than I do to choose from, but these will get bigger and bigger year after year. And I'll have to upgrade 2 of my older ones. I think are going to go into bigger pots this year after the berries are done, so they can continue to grow and get bigger and bigger. That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden. Good luck in pruning your blueberries. Don't let it scare you. You can do it. It's all going to be okay. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.